Hello there everyone, welcome to this slightly different video. I've decided doing a title card video with pictures would be a little bit boring and a bit time consuming to make, considering I'm just doing a minor updates video on all of my models. So I've decided to do it live, in a sense. So I'm just going to go through all the models, tell you what I've done to them, and tell you the things that I like, things I don't like about them. And I apologise if you can hear my keyboard in the background. I'm kind of talking to my cousin, Kaif, or KGT Gaming as you all know him, who I also run the KS Gaming Reviews channel with. I'm talking to him at the moment, so if I disappear for some random reason, that is why. I also apologise if the lighting is a little bit off, but I can't get my usual light down here, so I'm just kind of... This is actually just a piece of plastic sitting on my bed, so I really can't get any good lighting on it. Right, we will start with the first model I made, I suppose. Henry the Green Engine. Now Henry, I really haven't done much to, short of changing the brushes in his motor, because this is a modified version. He has stayed pretty much exactly the same as the day I built him. So, yeah. I also can't fit all of him into shot, so his tender just kind of sits here at the moment. So, what do I like and what don't I like about Henry? Well, things I do like, he is incredibly heavy. He is ludicrously heavy. He's a solid white metal casting on a brass base with Romford wheels, because this was custom made for this body. This is not an original Graham Farish model. And it runs incredibly well. It does have a stiff spot, which I'm trying to fix, but it's not really going well. Things I don't like: the spacing of these lines is not very even, and the thickness of the lining on this cylinder in particular, the other one's fine, is a little bit annoying. But aside from that, I am incredibly happy with this model. It turned out far better than I could have ever expected, and it runs very well. That's Henry the Green Engine! Its tender is absolutely hilarious. This is a Hornby IVAT 4MT chassis with a Duke of Gloucester 8F body and a custom built buffer beam. Because that's what I had on hand, and the Airfix chassis that was on this tender, the wheels exploded. So that was fun. That was just after I painted it as well, so that really annoyed me. Yeah. One second. So next would be Gordon. Gordon the Big Engine. As I prefer to call him, Gordon the Big Pain. This is the carved up remains of a Triang princess. Princess Victoria. Victoria? Elizabeth? Elizabeth. Yes, Elizabeth. Which is exactly the same way the Reverend did it. Differences being, this doesn't have Romford wheels, the firebox is slightly too long, and the cab is slightly the wrong shape, which I do need to fix at some point. And also the dome is in the wrong position, but I don't care. I've custom made safety valves for them. Gordon, again, I really haven't updated, short of changing the brushes in his motor, installing a motor, and putting the pickup plate on. And he is the one I need to do an awful lot of work with, because he needs handrails first and foremost. He needs his cab to be extended slightly. He needs his tender numbers, all of them do, except for Thomas. And yeah, the list is just getting ever longer. Things I like about him: he's an incredibly smooth runner. The Triang Princess chassis, especially with the wall shades valve gear, are incredibly good runners. I have a stock of them somewhere. They're brilliant. And the paint job turned out incredibly well. Things I don't like: There is a slight dent in the firebox that you can see there, and a bulge on that side. That's because the copper plate or sheet that I used didn't bend the way I wanted it to. So that was fun. The cab is a bit of a pain to modify, and one thing I really don't like is the fact that, as many people have pointed out over the years, the 4F tenders look absolutely puny behind a Princess or an A3. They're just hilariously small. But that's the way the Reverend did it, so that's the way I'll do it. And it doesn't look too bad at the end of the day. Back in a second. There's my camera. Next would be... Who did I do next? Even I'm forgetting. Let's go with Percy. Why not? Percy I've done quite a few updates to, actually. He is the smallest of them all, and he's adorable. I've added the silver chimney, the silver details on the front, done in the handrails. I've re-silvered his connecting rods and valve gear, and I've added the all-important handrail, which for some reason has moved. Oh, there we go. That's what it should look like. And on the other side as well. I've also added his whistle. He is quite possibly the smoothest runner, and he is the best slow runner I have in my collection that uses an XO4 tri motor. This thing is absolutely brilliant, considering what a carve-up it is. For those of you who haven't seen the build video, this is a Triang Nelly side tank model, with the side tanks and boiler cut off. This is a piece of wood that I've formed. Some cylinders from an Airfix Pug kit, or the X-Kit Master, and Triang Princess valve gear and conrods. It is quite hilarious. Also added real coal to it. So, yeah, that's it. What do I like about Percy? He is an incredibly smooth runner, as I've said. He's incredibly small, incredibly light, but he can do an awful lot. He isn't as fast as I thought he'd be, but then again, the pocket rocket is more Hornby's shtick. What don't I like about him? Nothing really, if I'm honest. Except for the fact that you can see the pickup contacts here, and the fact that I really can't change the colour of the slide valve. Aside from that, he is absolutely brilliant, and I love him to bits. Right. So after that, we will go with Toby. Toby is quite possibly one of my favourite models that I've built, but not for the build process. My word, was that painful. The build process for Toby, well, I'll put it this way. I finished Gordon, Henry, Percy minus the handrails, and I started Thomas, who is over there, before I finished Toby. Toby took an incredibly long time to make, because all these panel lines are matchsticks that are cut in half. Every single one of them. And let me tell you, that was a chore to do, but it was well worth it. He looks incredibly good, built to the Reverend's original specifications and instructions, which were in 1960s issue of Railway Modeller magazine. 67, I believe. Right, and what was it? Yeah, built to the Reverend's instructions, the only difference being I don't have a Romford motor bogie on it, I have a Hornby 040 chassis. So Romford motor bogies and Romford anything are about as rare as hen's back teeth. And I will show you the first Toby that I made. This is a big improvement. I'm nearly afraid to put this on camera because it is absolutely awful, but here we go. This thing is my first attempt at a Railway Series Toby. It is comical. The only good thing that this wretched pile of scrap ever gave me is the chassis for this one. That's it. It just sits on my shelf as a memorial to how terrible I was at making models. Hot glue. Don't use it. Please. For the love of everything in this world, do not use hot glue. ever. Unless you're making, I don't know, unless you're doing stuff with foam or you're making costumes or something. Just don't use hot glue, ever. Use super glue. Loctite cyanoacrylate super glue. It's amazing. Right. Moving on to... Oh, no. Hang on yet. The way that you get to the motor of Toby, in case you hadn't noticed, there are no screws on the thing. The body slides off, which is absolutely ingenious. And then you can access literally everything. It's just this one screw that holds everything together. And you can see the inside of the body. You can see through this side, you can see through these doors, you can see the handbrake. You can't see through the centre windows when this is on, and you can't see through the rear doors because that would let you see the motor. And you can't see through the rear windows either. You can see through the front ones though, they are glazed, they're just... It's difficult to see on camera. They are glazed, but you can see through. There we go. You can see through them. That way around, folks. That way around. So, what do I like about Toby? Very smooth runner because he's a modern chassis. Incredibly lightweight and incredibly small. What don't I like about him? The build process. Because this was just torturous. I hated every single second of the panelling. But... hey ho, it is what it is. Well, that's Toby. Next on the chopping block is my personal favourite model, Edward. Edward is, I think, the best model in my entire model railway collection. He's just beautiful. Like the lining, the handrails, the polished brass buffers, everything about him just screams perfection. For those of you who don't know, or who haven't seen the build video, this is a standard Triang LMS 2P. And it's just a simple repaint. Serves the motor. It does have custom made contacts on it. They're actually better than Triang's own. I might try making some of my own, they're brilliant. But, yeah. The lining was incredibly tedious, but it was worth every second of it, because it's two-tone lining. It looks incredibly good. So what do I like about Edward? Well, unlike most modern unlike most mid-2000s locomotives made by Hornby, he is locomotive drive, not tender drive. I'm glad they finally retired the tender drive mechanism. It is awful. The looks, another thing that I find absolutely brilliant. This is definitely the best looking model I've ever built. Just polished brass, silver con rods. Even the tender has polished brass buffers. He just looks beautiful. What don't I like about him? The lining. The lining took a very long time to do. If you haven't seen the build video, the lining alone took me 5 hours in one sitting. Yes, I drank an awful lot of tea that day. I barely blinked, I barely breathed. It was not fun. And so that's enough about Edward. The next one I finished is one I haven't actually made a video on yet. Elsie. The tiny little cute adorable luggage van that was never seen in the Railway series for some strange reason. But Elsie is a companion luggage car to Toby and Henrietta. It's just a tiny little four-wheel box van. It's adorable. It has comically large buffer beams, a domed roof with a little vent on it, and silver buffers. They're actually supposed to be four-wheeled coach ends, but I've made these myself. Panel lines, and these are white metal cast axle boxes and W irons, and random wheels that I have in my bin of spare parts. This if you want to make Reverend model replicas yourself, this is definitely a good starting point. It is literally a box on wheels. I threw this together in, I think excluding the drying time of the paint and glue, this took me about 4 hours to make. I mean, if you have the axle boxes, the wheels, the buffers, and a bit of balsa wood lying around, you can knock one of these out in a day. They are adorable, and they run incredibly smoothly. So, what do I like about Elsie? Small and adorable. What don't I like? Couplings. Trying to source Sprat and Winkle couplings is becoming very, very difficult, and they are extremely expensive. So I don't really know what couplings I'm going to be putting on any of these yet, which is why they have none fitted. But aside from that, not much else. Now, at long last, the stars of the show. Thomases, whatever the plural is. I have 2 Thomases. This is a replica of the body to the Stuart Reed Path, or Mark I Thomas, and this, of course, is the Hornby E2. So, this is a model that took me quite a while to make, and as you can see the silver's worn off the conrods already. I have to repaint that. This is the only one that has any numbering on it. Why? Because it's a rectangle, and I can paint rectangles. It is literally just a Hornby E2. I added a dart onto the front of the smoke box. It's got some new smaller buffers and some fake coal in it. An XO4 motor with a plastic worm gear on it. And it's just an E2 with lining. Oh, and a custom made whistle. There's really not much else to say about it. Mark I Thomas, however, there's a fair bit to say. Now, with the exception of the fact that I completely screwed up the length of the thing, it should be about the same length as the E2, and it isn't. It's comically small. This is basically a near exact replica of the Stuart Reed Path one. But I made it. This is all made completely out of wood, with the exception of the metal boiler. The smoke box is from an Airfix kit. It was a Great Western tank engine. I can't remember what class it was. It'll be something. It'll come to me later, I'm sure. The funnel is bits of Lego. I'm not joking. The dome I made Excuse me. The dome I made myself many years ago. The whistles, or safety valves, I haven't quite worked out what they are some beheaded nails. The wheel arches are actually Lego 1x2 slopes. The buffers are out of my bin of spares. There's fake coal in the back. I haven't put the windows in yet, but yeah, that's all there is to it. I haven't done the lining on the other side either. All I really need to do is wait for the chassis to arrive, which is going to be a Dublo tank engine, 060. Do the numbering, do the handrails, put the windows in, make the doors, and figure out how to put the chassis on with a motor, because I haven't drilled any holes in the bottom of it yet. Aside from that, right, sorry about that, my phone just ran out of battery, so we will pick up exactly where we left off, but I'm going to have to hold it because my tripod won't take the charging cable. So, I've resilvered the coupling rods on Mark III Thomas, so that's what they should look like. So, yeah, as I was saying, I haven't put any holes in the bottom of this body yet because I don't know what shape the chassis is just yet, and I haven't got the measurements of it, so that'll have to wait. But the E2 model is completely finished and running. So, what do I like about it? Honestly, absolutely everything. It just, even without the extended tanks that Thomas is so well known for, it just looks like Thomas. Like, you cannot look at this and tell me with a dead straight face that this is not Thomas. What don't I like about it? The motor and the worm gear. And the drive to the chassis. That caused me no end of problems. It took me... I can't even remember how many hours to get the thing to run at all. Because I don't have an XO3 motor, which have the proper nylon worm gears. All I had was an XO4 motor, and a cheap and nasty plastic worm gear that I think is half a tooth wrong. It runs just fine, well, graunchily forwards. It sounds like the Stuart Reedpath model, which gives it a bit of character. But it refuses point blank to run backwards. Unless, of course, a blue moon occurs on Friday the 13th whilst all of the planets align, in which case it will run backwards, but not forwards. And I'm not joking. This thing is about as temperamental as the original Reedpath Thomas that the Reverend built. And it's annoying, but oh well, what can you do? I think that is... yeah, that's everything. So, thank you very much for bearing with my ramblings. I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much for watching. If you're interested in the railway series or the models made by the Reverend Audrey, I will, as always, leave a link to the Real Lives of Thomas the Tank Engine website in the description, where you can find just about everything you could ever want to know about the railway series or the models. So, once again, thank you for watching.